The one thing I didn't think that you were going to be able to showcase is Trump having the intent. I left the first 20 minutes realizing I was very wrong about that, and then it was driven through my skull for the next 4 hours. I come away from this conversation thinking that he knew exactly what he was doing the entire time he was doing it.
Yeah, definitely the intent of Trump. I knew like peripheral events around it. I knew like the loose string of like how it went, but especially like I think the most powerful parts of it were.
I agree with Warren. I think the most damning part is the electoral scheme, the biggest like thing that most people don't know about. But since I knew about that, I would say the next big thing, and all of us got interested at this point. I think if you even go back and you watch the stream, is
But then the problem is like, okay, let's say you do somehow manage to condense it into like 2 hours. You publish it. It's like the best
for a video
edited,
you
most
could.
amazing.
This is
Okay, but
I see the vision
okay, but
in my head.
let me just go.
All right, well, we're going to blast through this, all right? On January 5th, Donald Trump tweets, pleased to announce that Kay Loeffler and basically Senator David Perdue have joined our great hashtag Stop the Steal group of senators. They will fight the ridiculous Electoral College certification of Biden. How do you certify numbers that have now been proven to be wrong and in many cases fraudulent? He also tweeted out, the vice president has the power to reject fraudulently chosen electors. This is not within, and then I added this comment, this is not within the powers of the vice president. And then he also tweeted out, quote, I hope the Democrats, and even more importantly, the weak and ineffective rhino section of the Republican Party are looking at the thousands of people pouring into D.C. They won't stand for a landslide election victory to be stolen. And then the next three tweets are on January 6th, but it's like the night of. They're like at midnight, 12:30 a.m., 1 a.m. or whatever. You can click and find the times. But he tweets out first, if Vice President Mike Pence comes through for us, we will win the presidency. Many states want to decertify the mistake they made in certifying incorrect and even fraudulent numbers in a process not approved by their state legislatures, which it must be. Mike can send it back. He tweets out, states want to correct their votes, which they now know were based on irregularities and fraud. Plus, corrupt process never received legislative approval. All Mike Pence has to do is send them back to the states and we win. Do it, Mike. This is a time for extreme courage. And then one more tweet. In all caps, the Republican Party and, more importantly, our country needs the presidency more than ever before. The power of the veto. Stay strong. Okay.
What is that? What is he implying of the power of the veto?
Just like the president can veto, so you have to have the president, yeah. Okay. All right, day of, January 6th, the speech at the Ellipse. Trump's team chose the Ellipse for the location of the rally on January 6th. It was about a mile's walk from there to the Capitol. It featured a variety of speakers, many of them continuing to make the same false assertions of voter fraud and rigged Dominion voting machines. Many of the speakers also reiterated the same pressure for lawmakers and Pence to overturn the electoral vote results. The event was set to begin at 9 a.m., with Trump finishing his speech at 12:16 p.m. According to the Secret Service Office of Inspector General report, about 28,000 people had entered the secured area of the rally, with many more staying outside. I think 20, 30, 40, 50,000 is hard to know, but around 28,000 went through the secured area. There's a lineup of like all the speakers who were...
The secured area means the building?
No. This is at the Ellipse outside. It's like where he gave the speech before they all went to the Capitol.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the speaker lineup, Paula White came on. She led the group in prayer. Kylie Jane Kremer, she was the person in charge of the rally. She worked for Women for America First. I think she was when they got the permits. Mo Brooks came on and spoke. He's a U.S. representative for Alabama. He gave a speech to fire up the crowd to tell them to, quote, start taking down names and kicking ass, end quote, while making constant comparisons to 1776 and the fight to establish early America. He also challenged Republicans in Congress to stand up and challenge the election certification. It was later reported, in a later report, he said that he admitted to wearing body armor at his speech because he was tipped off by the FBI of potential risks beforehand. If you want, you can click that. Let's see, he did that. The next speaker was Katrina Pearson. She's a former national campaign spokesperson and Trump media surrogate. In her speech, she also applied more pressure to Republican lawmakers to flip the vote in Congress during the certification, saying, quote, we are going to fight for our president, end quote, and that every politician who turns their back on Trump will, quote, lose their seats, end quote, in 2022. She also runs through a bunch of false voter fraud allegations. Amy Kremer comes on next. She's the women's something, I don't know, WFAF founder/chair, TeaPartyPatriots.org national coordinator, co-founder of Women for Trump. She goes on to speak about how foreign influence was stealing the election for the American public, including from Russia and Ukraine, and that Georgia was a corrupt state for refusing to investigate their voter fraud claims. She also alleged the exact same faults Pennsylvania and Georgia and other voter fraud claims, again, to the crowd. She fires up the crowd, telling them that the election was stolen from Trump and that they are, quote, here to save the republic, end quote. Vernon Jones is a state representative from Georgia. He comes up and he says he encouraged people to fight once more in the rally and to, quote, take our country back, end quote. Texas Attorney General Paxton and Senator Paxton come up. They, telling their fighters. It was a short thing. I think they were up there for literally 60 seconds. Eric Trump and his wife come up. They come up, fire up the crowd. They reinforced that Trump called on them to, quote, descend on DC, end quote, and that Biden clearly lost the election. His wife also comes on to say, quote, we are in this fight to the bitter end, and we are going to take our country back, end quote. Donald Trump Jr. also applies more pressure to Congress, saying that lawmakers, quote, need to stand up, end quote, while they march to the Capitol. Some Kimberly Guilfoyle, she comes up. I think she speaks for a little bit. I think that was supposed to be Eric Trump before, but Trump Jr. comes up now, the Donald Trump son that we're more familiar with. Quote, you could be a hero or you could be a zero, end quote. Quote, choose wisely, end quote, and quote, fight, end quote, were repeated by Trump Jr. at the event. Again, encouraging lawmakers to refuse to certify the election. He says if the lawmakers don't fight, quote, we're coming for you, end quote. Maybe I should make like a video, I guess, like compiling this. I don't know how long it would be, but it's interesting to note that Trump Jr. opens his speech saying that they're not protesting like Democrats and burning down buildings. And then a few minutes later, he'll go on to say that they need to act more like Democrats when they protest. There's a part in his speech where he's like, we're not like the Democrats. We're better than that. And then I think like 1 minute later, he's like, we need to start protesting like Democrats. It's just funny. Madison Cawthorn rolls up, U.S. representative from North Carolina. He claims that the lawmakers in Congress at the Capitol are weak and reminds the audience that he plans to contest the election at noon. He also brings up the state legislatures and that constitutionally they've got the authority to flip the election. Then Rudy Giuliani and John Eastman come up. Giuliani begins by saying the plan for today is perfectly legal. He says that the, quote, vice president can cast the election aside, end quote, decide on the validity of these crooked ballots or send it back to the legislatures, end quote. And then he says, quote, let's have trial by combat, end quote. He says, quote, this election was stolen, end quote, and then, quote, we're going to fight to the very end to make sure that doesn't happen, end quote. Eastman came on stage and asserted once more that Pence had the power to delay the certification of the vote.
Is this Giuliani quote at all mentioned in the indictment where he lies, admits to lying?
Nope, that's a totally different court case. That has nothing to do with this.
I don't think it could be because he's not like lie. This isn't a lie.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Right? Well, it's lying about the same sort of thing, though, no?
Well, yeah, but remember, to be sued for defamation, you've got to be sued by a person affected by the defamation.
Right. So the defamation is the voter box, right?
I guess, sure, yeah. Okay. Also, there's a link to this full speech at the very top. Speakers before Trump. I've got a full recording. If you click that, there's like 4 hours, but you can watch all the speakers go through and run through all their lines or whatever.
I do have a question.
Go.
So I think the natural response is going to be, okay, well, a lot of people use inflammatory language when they're talking about like fighting or combat. It doesn't necessarily mean they meant violence. Like, what would you say to that, first of all? And secondly, was there any was there like a moment in these speeches where they were like, don't be violent, don't hurt anyone, peaceful protest, you know what I mean?
I think there's exactly one quote kind of like that. We'll get to that. And then also I'll get to your question at the end because I think all of this is incorporated, yeah. Okay. Then you have Donald Trump's speech. Donald Trump spoke at the Ellipse for about an hour and 10 minutes, starting at 11:57 a.m. While he does, at one point in the speech, exactly one time, I think it's about 20 minutes in, he says, quote, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard, end quote. He spends the rest of the speech repeating four essential points to set the agenda for the day. One, he diligently recounts every single accusation of voter and election fraud, with almost every single claim at this point having been debunked or shot down by his own administration. I think he literally spends like 30 minutes like talking through every single fucking claim in this speech. Two, he reminds his supporters that they are close to losing their country due to an illegitimate election. Three, he calls out several times that Mike Pence is the only person who can save the Republicans. And then four, he constantly reminds those in Congress whom he helped run for election that they will lose their elections in the 2022 midterms if they don't support him. I wrote down like a collection of quotes basically from the speech, but I mean, like, there's a transcript that I've linked. You can go through all of it if you ever want. But like, we took them by surprise, and this year they rigged an election. They rigged it like they've never rigged an election before. All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they are doing, and stolen by the fake news media. That's what they've done and what they're doing. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. And use a favorite term that all the people really came up with: we will stop the steal. Today, I will lay out just some of the evidence proving that we won this election, and we won it by a landslide. This was not a close election. We didn't lose. We will not let them silence your voice. We are not going to let it happen. I'm not going to let it happen. I think after he says this, the audience begins chanting, "Fight for Trump, fight." And he says, "Thank you." And Rudy, you did a great job. He's got guts. You know what? He's got guts. Unlike a lot of the people in the Republican Party, he's got guts. He fights and he fights. And he looked at Mike Pence, and I hope Mike is going to do the right thing. I hope so. I hope so, because if Mike Pence does the right thing, we win the election. All he has to do, all this is from the number one, or certainly one of the top constitutional lawyers in our country. He's talking about Eastman. He has the absolute right to do it. We are supposed to protect our country, support our Constitution, and protect our Constitution. States want to revolt. States want to revote. The states got defrauded. They were given false information. They voted on it. Now they want to recertify. They want it back. All Vice President Pence has to do is send it back to the states to recertify, and we become president, and you are the happiest people. And I just spoke to Mike. I said, Mike, that doesn't take courage. What takes courage is to do nothing. That takes courage. And then we're stuck with a president who lost the election by a lot, and we have to live with that for 4 more years. We're just not going to let that happen. We've gathered together in the heart of our nation's capital for one very, very basic and simple reason: to save our democracy. For years, Democrats have gotten away with election fraud and weak Republicans, and that's what they are. They're so weak Republicans, or there's so many weak Republicans, and we have great ones. Jim Jordan and some of these guys, they're out there fighting. The House guys are fighting, but it's incredible. Many of the Republicans, I helped them get in. I helped them get elected. I helped Mitch get elected. I helped. And you have to get your people to fight. And if they don't fight, we have to primary the hell out of the ones that don't fight. You primary them. We're going to let you know who they are. I can already tell you, frankly. But this year, using the pretext of the China virus and the scam, I could go on. There's like 10 more quotes here, but it's all just like, who will not be intimidated into accepting the hoaxes and lies that we've been forced to believe. Over the past several weeks, we've amassed overwhelming evidence about a fake election. I've bolded the, I've bolded everything having to do, I think, with Pence, just because to see how many, for Pence, or like for throwing back the electoral certification, basically. Yeah, okay. And I don't have to read through all of this. And again, you can also, there are no other references to peaceful bullshit.
Whoa,
or
there's
whatever.
just one really crazy quote I just want to read, because he just said we have to fight for the Constitution. This quote says, the Republicans have to get tougher. You're not going to have a Republican Party if you don't get tougher. They want to play so straight. They want to play so, sir, yes, the United States. The Constitution doesn't allow me to send them back to the states. Well, I say, yes, it does. Because the Constitution says you have to protect our country. Like, he's literally here saying, like, well, the Constitution says I can't do it.
Sure.
Well, I say the Constitution does, because it says you have to protect our country and protect our Constitution. Like, it's a contradiction. Constitution says I can't do it. I say, yes, it does. I have to protect the Constitution.
Yeah.
Like, it's retarded.
Yeah. The final quote of him at the end of this is, what is it? I don't know if I have this written down. I think this might be, yeah, this is the last thing. So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol, and we're going to try and give, the Democrats are hopeless. They never vote for anything, not even one vote. But we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help, we're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. And then he ends that speech. So this is, again, I've got the full thing there. Maybe I could do like a video, I guess, compiling some of these quotes, but like there are no other calls to peace or anything like that in that speech ever. Okay. The next chunk is, riot at the Capitol. So there's 2 groups of people that I think are good to be aware of. The first is the Proud Boys. So the Proud Boys were founded in 2016 by Gavin McInnes. They gained national notoriety after their presence during the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, which resulted in the death of Heather Heyer and sparked national outrage. McInnes distanced himself from the movement after they became increasingly radical and violent from 2018 to 2021. Enrique Tarrio was the chairman of the Proud Boys. And then for a similar time period, Joe Biggs was the leader. During one of the 2020 presidential debates, Chris Wallace asked Donald Trump if he would denounce the Proud Boys and other far-right groups. But Donald Trump's reply was for the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. Do we want to watch this clip again to make sure it's not? Yeah, we do. Click it. It's like a minute and a half.
All right.
Make sure you're set to 1.5. Let me know when you're ready to go.
Ready.
Ready.
All right.
Ready.
3, 2, 1, boom.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do
specifically
that,
do it?
But
Go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists
Who
and
would you
right
like me to condemn?
white supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
This
is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea.
Okay,
not
we
an
can
organization.
You got it.
pause there. You can, but that's a famous quote from Trump that a lot of people get kind of angsty about. My next paragraph, you can click the link for Parler. On Parler, Enrique's response to Trump's statement was that he was standing by, sir. And Joe Biggs posted, President Trump told the Proud Boys to stand by because someone needs to deal with Antifa. Well, sir, we're ready. I don't know if you guys, do any of you remember Parler?
Yeah, briefly.
It was
I
like
don't know when it ended, but it was there
Sure.
for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, you can click through. You can see these are the posts that they made on Parler. Joe Biggs, right? Proud Boys shout at the presidential debate. President Trump told the Proud Boys to stand by because someone needs to deal with Antifa. Well, sir, we're ready. Enrique Tarrio, standing by, sir. Joe Biggs. Trump basically said to go f them up. This makes me so happy. From November 5th afterwards, different Proud Boys members were posting inflammatory statements across their social media accounts. On November 6th, Tarrio posted a message that read, the media constantly accuses us of wanting to start a civil war. Careful what the fuck you ask for. We don't want to start one, but we sure as finish one. On November 12th, he posted, unity, no quarter, raise the black flag. On November 16th, if Biden steals this election, the Proud Boys will be political prisoners. We won't go quietly, I promise. On the 25th, he posted a social media post by Joe Biden that stated, we need to remember we're at war with a virus, not with each other. Tarrio then posted, no, you need to remember the American people are at war with you. No Trump, no peace, no quarter. From at least in or around November 2020, these are other members, Nordine, Biggs, and Ryle, I think, used their platform as regional leaders of the Proud Boys to publicly post statements in response to the projected results of the 2020 election. We don't have to go through all of those. Scrolling down, in December 2020, Enrique Tarrio created a new chapter of the Proud Boys called the Ministry of Self-Defense. In the following signal groups and chats, Enrique Tarrio and other members would plan for the day of January 6th and how they would execute their role in the insurrection. An early blueprint for this, called 1776 Returns, was given to Enrique Tarrio on December 30th and used to outline the events that would follow from January 1st to January 6th. That the 1776 returns document, you can click it at some point if you want, but it just goes through like holding basically buildings captive in the Capitol before until like the president like calls some like insurrection bullshit. It's some wacky plan. I say wacky plan, but I guess
Yeah, I see. It says overall goal: fill the buildings with patriots and communicate our demands. They said they want to get a bunch of Senate office buildings. What if it just says CNN at least egg doorway? Are they trying to take control of like a CNN building?
There's a CNN building there. He's saying they should at least egg the doorway, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a funny addition. Okay.
Yeah. Enrique Tarrio was notified that he was ordered to leave D.C. within 24 hours on January 5th. He and Stuart Rhodes met on the night of January 5th. Stuart Rhodes is the leader of the Oath Keepers, to speak about what would happen the next day, referring to the event the next day as an insurrection. Just as a reminder, Enrique Tarrio is the leader of the Proud Boys, and Stuart Rhodes is the leader of the Oath Keepers. We'll get to who they are next. Ready?
Ready.
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Ready for the car. I need that.
Some of it's hard to hear in the beginning. I think it changes later on, I think.
I knew as soon as I got to it.
I think the two people hugging, I think that's Tarrio and Rhodes.
When I knew I signed the warrant. So.
I want you to meet Lieutenant Kelly. She's from Texas.
Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Susan Arena.
Hey, Stuart. Pleasure's all mine.
Hey, listen.
Oh, no, that's Stuart. My
You
bad.
need a vehicle to
No, we're
do they know what you're driving? To Do they know what you're driving?
It doesn't matter. I'm sure that even if they were to come by right now, I'm on my way out. So I literally just picked up my bags.
So I thought they told you 24
They didn't
hours.
give me the 24 hours. They didn't want. The reason why they did that is that they didn't want me to go to tomorrow's event.
Okay.
Is that your camera? Yeah. Okay. Those are my guys.
Okay. So you don't need anything right now. Do you need anything?
No, I'm good. You going on Virginia side? I'm gonna go on the other side. I'm gonna go to Maryland. You're going north.
The Maryland?
Yeah. I was gonna go to the VA side, but a lot of my guys are on the Maryland side.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense.
Well, they're also shutting down that bridge across from Maryland, Virginia. Yeah, that's why. That's one of the reasons. I'm gonna drive back down to Miami. I don't want to get on the plane right now. I just don't. I don't blame you.
You're gonna drive back to Miami?
Yes. I'm gonna go with
I'm
Amy.
gonna rent a car tomorrow.
I'm gonna stay close just to make sure my guys are okay.
And I'm gonna
So
shoot
tomorrow, and I got a lot of stuff to do tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm gonna come in and shoot tomorrow. That's why I should be my daughter.
Ashley, yeah, we've met before.
We have Friday.
Sorry, was that
It's okay. Listen, all I was gonna say is no one's gonna get to him. I cleared that up before you. That's all I was trying to say.
You did?
Okay, I don't know why
What
I
is
put
the
this.
significance of this video exactly?
Hold on. Yeah, wait. I don't know why I put insurrection in quotes here. I don't think this is the right quote for this.
Yeah,
This is
the video is just them hanging out.
well. Hold on. This video is on the night of January 5th, early morning, January 6th. This is Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys, meeting with Stuart Rhodes, and they're just kind of like chatting about like the events going on tomorrow.
Telling him to leave.
So Enrique Tarrio was ordered to leave because the police caught him, and he was apparently tied to, I think, the burning of a banner or something the night before. If you look up a little bit where it says he was ordered to leave DC, that's the court order that said that he has a no contact order, stay away from DC for the next 24 hours. That goes through. I think it was because I thought I read that he was like accused of like burning a BLM flag or something. They just wanted him to leave or something because he wasn't allowed to be there until he came back to court or something.
It just seems like all that video shows
order
is that
you to
he was
leave
like
also.
they.
What?
It seems like all that video shows is them being like you.
Yeah,
confirm that
nothing
he's
bad. It's just
leaving.
showing that they're in DC. That's it. There's nothing bad is technically happening in this video. Yeah, it's just establishing that both people are there. Okay, we'll go through the Oath Keepers. The Oath Keepers were founded in 2009 by Elmer Stuart Rhodes. While it's hard to know their exact numbers, law enforcement estimates that they have around 5,000 members, around 5,000 in numbers, with many of the group being former military or law enforcement. After the election, Rhodes began to amp up the rhetoric, calling for some sort of organized resistance to the outcome of the presidential election. In a November 9th meeting, including other prominent Oath Keepers members, Kelly Meggs and William Todd Wilson. There are a lot of names here, but they're not really that important yet. Or I don't know if they'll even be important. But Stewart encouraged people to step up their actions in defending Trump. Quote, you could stand there saying, we're going to defend the president, the duly elected president, and we call on him to do what needs to be done to save our country. And if you don't, guys, you're going to be in a bloody, bloody civil war and a bloody, you can call it an insurrection or you can call it a guerrilla fight, end quote. That November 9th meeting, if you click, it's like a court transcript, basically, of a transcription of a group phone call that they were on. The Oath Keepers began to post more and more aggressively on their website, calling for violent confrontation in the Capitol to oppose the outcome of the election. I've just captured screenshots from the website. There's an advertisement for a November 14th rally. There's a December 12th ad to call about how they had to resist the election. There's a January 5th advertisement to show up for the Capitol defense. And then the Oath Keepers began training their members to coordinate for combat and support roles during January 6th. They organized several different QRFs, they call them quick reaction forces, to resupply fighters during the insurrection if active fighting began. The day before, for example, Edward Vallejo had wheeled in weapons and equipment into a hotel nearby to be ready to resupply. I've cut out like a ton of like stuff from this, but you can just click this window.
Offered surveillance photos, they say, show Vallejo wheeling the stockpile into a hotel near the Capitol, where he allegedly waited for orders from the leader of the Oath Keepers to join the melee with other quick reaction force members.
Basically, they've got like a bunch of people that are kind of like wheeling weapons and stuff around outside of DC, like waiting for calls to like start wheeling stuff in when the fighting begins, essentially, is like what the Oath Keepers were doing. I've got like...
So I think part of the problem with this section is like you're citing like... some like news place, right? And like obviously I'm not, and they also use the word allegedly in that. If these guys are charged, I feel like you should like use stuff that shows that they were charged and like this definitely happened, because it says allegedly. I feel like a lot of people are gonna be able to look at this and be like, oh, that's not really what happened. They were carrying lima beans in their fucking
Yeah, you're giving us B-roll instead of the actual.
True, yeah. I mean, like everything that's coming out here is like, so the notes that I'm drawing from are literally from the indictment. So if you click below, it's notes for the indictment from Stuart Rhodes III. That's where all this information is coming from. And then above for the Enrique Tarrio stuff, if you scroll up, it's I think I've got a quote that says page 4 of the indictment.
Which indictment?
Well, there's one indictment for Tarrio and there's another indictment for Stuart Rhodes.
Okay.
Yeah, so these are the two leaders of these respective groups that are going to be very active on January 6th. Okay, it's just a little bit of basically background on these two groups. These are the two most organized groups on January 6th, and they're going to be the guys that are kind of like one is actively involved in a lot of stuff, and the other could have been actively involved in a lot of spooky stuff, but didn't come to pass. I think that Okay, I'm going to leave that there for now, and then we're just going to run through the timeline of the day, basically, okay? And then we'll go back, and there's a video to watch on this, basically. Okay. The insurrection on January 6th would see the attempted culmination of multiple parties plotting multiple things, all running concurrently with each other. Donald Trump would encourage and then utilize the violence of the day in an attempt to pressure lawmakers to refuse the certification of the election results. He would repeatedly ignore requests throughout the day to tell his supporters to stop the rioting, only sending out a tweet to encourage them to go home 3 hours after the rioting began. Giuliani and other members around Trump would continue to further actions in order to refuse certification of the vote in Congress. The Proud Boys would meet as planned in the morning, then head to the Capitol building to lead the initial violent break-ins past cop lines and into the locked building via breaking through a window. And then the Oath Keepers, after spending the prior day stationing multiple stockpiles of arms, ammunition, and other equipment with quick reaction teams nearby, would make their way in and out of the Capitol, waiting for an opportune moment to strike. So I've got this timeline, basically, I've got 4 different colored actions here. So red, these are Donald Trump's actions. Basically, it's just showing a complete and total abdication of responsibilities to ensure the safety of the Capitol and a willingness to take advantage of the violence in furtherance of the attempted coup. 2 is in furtherance of the coup. These are lawmakers, Trump campaign staff, and other staff, and his lawyers attempting to pressure people to go along with the coup. So basically to reject the vote or at least to delay it. 3 in green, these are the Proud Boys operating that day. The actions on January 6th, especially the initial gathering, plus breach of the Capitol grounds. And then 4 in purple are the Oath Keepers operating. These actions on January 6th, especially in the quick response or quick reaction force staged with hundreds of firearms nearby ready for action. Okay. And then it's just like a read down basically of like the time this stuff is happening. On January 6th at 6 a.m., there's a video of people who began to construct a gallows outside of the Capitol. Not a huge thing, but it's kind of spooky. At 6:27 a.m., Stuart Rhodes, the Oath Keepers leader, messaged the Oath Keepers leadership signal chat and informed them that they would have several well-equipped quick reaction forces, people ready to supply weapons, ammunition, and other combat gear right outside of D.C. At 7:30 a.m., Mark Meadows texts Representative Jim Jordan, "I've pushed for this, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen." This is in reference of what they hope to happen today, which is like to delay the certification of the vote. At 8:17 a.m., Donald Trump tweets, "States want to correct their votes, which they now know were based on irregularities and fraud, plus corrupt process, never received legislative approval. All Mike Pence has to do is send them back to the states and we win. Do it, Mike. This is a time for extreme courage." At 8:22 a.m., Trump tweets, "The Republican Party, and more importantly, our country, needs the presidency more than ever before. The power of the veto stays strong." Okay, before I said these are at 1 a.m., so these are at 8 a.m. Sorry, I fucked that up in the earlier thing. So 8:17, 8:22 a.m. At 8:30 a.m., so these are the Oath Keepers people, Rhodes and others departed a hotel in Virginia, heading to Washington, D.C. At 9 a.m., you get the start time for the March to Save America rally at the Ellipse. This is where all the speeches will take place. At about 10 a.m., a group of 100 Proud Boys began gathering near the Washington Monument. None of them were wearing the ordinary Proud Boys uniforms, with leadership equipped with radios and bullhorns to direct the group movements, consistent with plans made prior by Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio. So they'd said prior to this, like, listen, we're all going to show up. Make sure you bring radios. Make sure you bring equipment. Make sure you've got like vests and gas masks and everything else. Don't wear your ordinary uniforms. We don't want people to be able to identify us. At 10:15 a.m., White House Deputy Chief of Staff Tony Ornato informs Mark Meadows, Trump's White House Chief of Staff, that authorities at the Ellipse encountered attendees with weapons, including pistols, rifles, bear spray, and spears, according to Hutchinson's testimony to the January 6th committee. So when Trump was giving his speech at the Ellipse, like, most of the people aren't going through the magnetotron or whatever the fuck it's called, the magnetic detector. The vast majority of people are staying outside. At 10:30 a.m., about 200 to 300 Proud Boys begin marching towards the Capitol. At 10:47, Giuliani begins his speech at the Ellipse event, reiterating with Eastman that everything outlined by the plan today is perfectly legal and perfectly appropriate. And then he goes on to call for that, quote, trial by combat. Trump begins his speech at 11:58 a.m. At the Ellipse. In this speech, he pressures Republicans in Congress to challenge the vote certification, for Pence to refuse to certify the vote, and he reiterates tons of different false election fraud claims and riles the crowd up to fight like hell, or else they're not going to have a country anymore. At 12:30 in the afternoon, Senator Ron Johnson's aide attempts to get fake elector slates from Michigan and Wisconsin to the vice president, but he's refused by Pence's aide, Chris Hodgson. So some of the fake elector slates that they tried to mail in didn't make it in time. So Senator Ron Johnson's aide is like running these, and he's on video, like trying to get these fake electorate slates to Vice President Pence. But his aide shoots him down. He's like, "You're never doing this. We're not doing this." At 12:45, the FBI, the Capitol Police, and the ATF respond to a pipe bomb found outside the RNC headquarters. The Secret Service would later go on to say both of these, they found 2 of them, were armed and active. They just didn't go off. At 12:53 p.m., the Proud Boys break through the outer perimeter and engage U.S. Capitol Police officers. This is the first breakthrough into any restricted area at the Capitol on January 6th. So this happens at 12:53 p.m. This is the first time any police line is broken, and it's by the Proud Boys as they'd planned to do for weeks leading up to this event here. At 1 p.m., there's a joint session in Congress to certify the election results. At 1:02 p.m., Pence tweets out from his account a letter that includes the statement, quote, "It is my considered judgment that my oath to support and defend the Constitution constrains me from claiming unilateral authority to determine which electoral votes should be counted and which should not," end quote. At 1:07 p.m., a pipe bomb is found outside the DNC headquarters. Later reports, I think this came out just a week ago, confirm that Kamala Harris was within 20 feet of one of these pipe bombs. At 1:10 p.m., Trump's speech ends. He ends, and his ending words are, these are the ending words just pulled right from the end of the speech, are, "And we fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. Our exciting adventures and boldest endeavors have not yet begun. My fellow Americans, for our movement, for our children, and for our beloved country. And I say this despite all that's happened, the best is yet to come. So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol, and we're going to try and give, the Democrats are hopeless. They never vote for anything, not even one vote. But we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I want to thank you all. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you all for being here. This is incredible. Thank you very much. Thank you." The protesters from Trump's speech were sent to the Capitol about 20 minutes after the first breach of the Capitol grounds by the Proud Boys. At 1:10 p.m., Stop the Steal leader Ali Alexander sends a text to Thomas Van Fleen, who's Representative Gozar's chief of staff, and he's outside basically watching the riot unfold, like in the early stages, saying, "I think you and your staff should maybe leave. This is hell out here." At 1:19 p.m., despite protests from Trump to attend the Capitol protest, because Trump wanted to go, the Secret Service says, "We can't do this. This is not secure," and then the motorcade takes him back to the White House. At 1:25 p.m., Trump begins to watch TV for 187 minutes during the riot. During this time, Trump would watch Fox News, he would make a few tweets, and he'd make several phone calls to Giuliani and some members of Congress to encourage lawmakers to continue to fight the certification. He never made any calls to law enforcement or to the National Guard to issue orders to stop the riots, and he repeatedly refused calls to do so from those that would go in and talk to him. In a later interview, Trump claimed that he wanted to go back and to stop the problem himself, but that he was refused. There's no evidence of this ever happening. This is not true. In the Senate, McConnell warned senators that rejecting the electoral vote could send American democracy into a death spiral. At 2:12 p.m., Stuart Rhodes, the leader of the Oath Keepers, entered the...
I do have a question.
God. Yep, go.
The citation for him watching TV during that part, what is the citation for that? Is that in the indictment?
He was live tweeting what he was seeing, I imagine.
We'll go down through this. There's a lot of testimony for that. But it'll come up as we go down through this. At 2:12 p.m., Stuart Rhodes, the leader of the Oath Keepers, entered the restricted Capitol grounds on the northeast side of the Capitol. At 2:13 p.m., Proud Boys member Dominic Pizzola breaches the Capitol building with a stolen riot shield. Michael Sparks, a 46-year-old man from Kentucky, was the first rioter to enter the Capitol building through the broken window. This is the very first time during the day that the actual Capitol building itself is breached by any rioter. So it was the Proud Boys that did the first line break, and then it was them that did the first break-in into the Capitol building. At 2:13 p.m., right after, the Senate is gavelled into recess and Pence is removed from the Senate chambers, delaying the certification of the electoral vote. At 2:14, rioters outside are chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." When Trump was informed of this, according to testimony from Hutchinson, who's one of the aides in the White House, she said that Trump said Mike deserves it. At 2:15 p.m., the rioters reached the second floor, where USCP officer Eugene Goodman lured insurrectionists away from the open Senate chamber doors leading to the vice president's office, where Pence and his family were being held by the Secret Service. It'll come out later, but Pence refused to leave the Capitol because he didn't want the world to see the U.S. vice president fleeing the Capitol, according to testimony from Mr. Jacob to the January 6th committee. At 2:24 p.m., should we watch some of the videos accompanying this, or?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'd like to see him.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to. Okay, go back up to, I guess. Let's.
I didn't know Pence was in the. I didn't know Pence was in the building. I assumed he was.
Actually, here, let's do the 2:14. Rioters outside are chanting. Let's start there. Go ahead.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
We witnessed.
I'll do 1.5 times. Let me know when you're at the very beginning.
Ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
We witnessed firsthand what happened when the President of the United States weaponized this theory. The Capitol was overrun, police officers lost their lives, and the Vice President was taken to a secure location because his safety was in jeopardy. Let's take a look at the effect of Donald Trump's words and actions. I want to warn our audience that the video contains explicit content.
Mike Pence is going to have to come through for us, and if he doesn't, that will be a sad day for our country. And Mike Pence, I hope you're going to stand up for the good of our Constitution and for the good of our country.
So this is from the Ellipse speech earlier.
And if you're not, I'm going to be very disappointed in you. I will tell you right now.
I'm telling you what, I'm hearing the Pence. I'm hearing the Pence just caved. No. Is that true? I'm hearing reports that Pence caved. No, I'm telling you, if Pence caved, we're going to drag through the streets. You politicians are going to get drugged through the streets. Yes.
I guess the hope is that there's such a show of force here that Pence will decide to do the right thing, according to Trump.
Bring it out! Bring out Pence! Bring him out! Bring out Pence! Bring him out! Bring out Pence! 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 Bring out Pence!
There's at 2:15 p.m. There's this Eugene Goodman clip. I actually think this one is kind of important to play. Slow this down to 125. I don't know how much.
What is this?
It's the one at 2:15 for Eugene Goodman, lured insurrectionists.
Got it.
Slow this down to 1.25. I just want to explain this real quick because this gets brought up. I think I've seen this clip specifically brought up a lot to show that cops were luring the people through the building. So in this, by 2:15 p.m., they've already broken into the building and they start to stream in. As Goodman is coming up the stairs and he looks to the left. I don't have a map here, but to the left, if you go down the hallway and look left, those are the Senate chambers. The door is open, and Pence and his family are right beyond. I'd say like maybe 10 or 20 yards from the door, right beyond in the next room. So you see him try to lure people away from that basically entrance, but you'll see that. So let me know when you guys are ready to start.
So he's in the Capitol.
Yeah, you'll see. 3, 2, 1, go.
It's often said that one person can make a difference, and that was never more true than last Wednesday at the U.S. Capitol. We get more now from CBS's Mark Strassman.
Bedlam, mayhem, and one cop, the last line of defense against a mob pushing forward. Eugene Goodman, an Army vet and U.S. Capitol Police officer.
How is there only one guy?
HuffPost reporter Igor Bobek shot the cell phone video.
This mob was carrying a Confederate flag. They were carrying another flag that had, Nazi swastikas emblazoned on them. It was a white mob charging at a black police officer.
Goodman sprinted up the stairs, the mob on his heels. He shouted in his radio.
Second floor!
Meaning the mob was reaching the Senate chamber. At the top of the stairs, Goodman looked left. Between those chairs, the doors to the Senate floor, still open. Here's the moment that mattered. Goodman pushed this mob leader wearing a black QAnon t-shirt. It was a ruse to lure them away from the Senate chamber, and there, finally, backup arrived.
It was his heroic actions that may have made a difference.
By then, the Senate chamber was sealed.
Okay, and then you can, we don't need the rest of that. Go to the next video is, this is just, I guess, like testimony from U.S. Vice President fleeing the Capitol, according to testimony from Mr. Jacob. You want to click that one. This is, you can see basically Pence was, after he was evacuated from the Senate chamber, so after that event, he gets evacuated downstairs to the basement. The Secret Service really want him to leave because they don't consider the area secure.
From the National Archives that show Vice President Pence sheltering in a secure underground location as rioters overwhelmed the Capitol. At 4:19 p.m., Vice President Pence is seen looking at a tweet the president had just sent, a tweet asking the rioters to leave the Capitol. After 4.5 hours spent on working to restore order, the Vice President returned to the Senate floor to continue the certification of electors.
So Vice President Pence was a focus of the violent attack. Mr. Jacob, did the Vice President leave the Capitol complex during the attack?
He did not.
Can you please explain why the Vice President refused to leave the Capitol complex?
When we got down to the secure location, Secret Service directed us to get into the cars, which I did, and then I noticed that the Vice President had not. So I got out of the car that I had gotten into, and I understood that the Vice President had refused to get into the car. The head of his Secret Service detail, Tim, had said, I assure you we're not going to drive out of the building without your permission. And the vice president had said something to the effect of, Tim, I know you, I trust you, but you're not the one behind the wheel. And the vice president did not want to take any chance that the world would see the vice president of the United States fleeing the United States Capitol. He was determined that we would complete the work that we had set out to do that day, that it was his constitutional duty to see through, and that the rioters who had breached the Capitol would not have the satisfaction of disrupting the proceedings beyond the day on which they were supposed to be completed.
Let me see if I understand this right. You were told to get in the cars, and how many of the vice president's staff got in the cars while he did not?
Most of us.
During our investigation, we received testimony.
Okay, again, pause that. So obviously Pence didn't want to leave because he didn't want to be seen as like, yeah, basically giving them the satisfaction of having delayed the election. So at 2:24 p.m., so this is going to be a Donald Trump tweet at 2:24. Quote, Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones, which they were asked to previously certify. The USA demands the truth, end quote. This tweet was made 1 hour and 30 minutes after the initial breach through the secured area onto the Capitol grounds, and about 10 minutes after the rioters had breached the actual Capitol building. And this tweet had been made after aides had spent like 20 minutes trying to get him to release some kind of tweet telling people to calm down or go home. At 2:25 p.m., the rotunda doors into the Capitol building are breached. From 2:26 to 3:06 p.m., in a conversation to Representative McCarthy and others, Trump tells McCarthy that the people outside must be more upset than he is about the election results. He also calls other lawmakers to see if they can further delay the election certification.
We've heard this evening how everyone in the president's orbit was pushing him to do more, to tell the mob to leave the Capitol. One of those people was Republican leader Kevin McCarthy. He managed to get the president on the phone and told him to call off his supporters. As you will hear, the president refused, and so Leader McCarthy reached out for help to Ivanka Trump, who was at the White House, and Jared Kushner, who that afternoon had just arrived back on a flight from the Middle East.
So at some point in the afternoon, Mr. McCarthy placed a phone call to Mr. Scavino's desk line, and it was transferred to the president. Is that correct? That's generally what I recall. Okay. Were you involved in transferring that call? Yes. Okay. Where was the president at the time that he took that call? He was in the dining room.
Would you personally reach out to the president for more support?
I've already talked to the president. I called him. I think we need to make a statement, make sure that we can calm individuals down.
Did Mr. McCarthy indicate that he had been in touch with President Trump? He indicated that he had some conversation. I don't recall whether it was with the president or somebody at the White House, but I think he expressed frustration that not taking the circumstances seriously as they should in that moment.
I asked Kevin McCarthy, who's a Republican leader, about this, and he said he called Donald Trump. He finally got through to Donald Trump, and he said, "You have got to get on TV. You've got to get on Twitter. You've got to call these people off." You know what the president said to him? This is as it's happening. He said, "Well, Kevin, these aren't my people. These are Antifa." And Kevin responded and said, "No, they're your people. They literally just came through my office windows, and my staff are running for cover. They're running for their lives. You need to call them off." And the president's response to Kevin, to me, was chilling. He said, "Well, Kevin, I guess they're just more upset about the election theft than you are." And that's, you've seen widespread reports of Kevin McCarthy and the president having basically a swearing conversation. That's when the swearing commenced, because the president was basically saying, I'm okay with this.
Leader McCarthy, the President of the United States has a briefing room steps from the Oval Office. The cameras are hot 24/7, as you know. Why hasn't he walked down and said that now?
I conveyed to the president what I think is best to do, and I'm hopeful the president will do it.
And have you spoken with his chief of staff?
I've spoken to the president. I've spoken to other people in there, and to the White House as well.
Who else reached out to Ms. Trump that you know of that afternoon about the attack on the Capitol?
I believe at one point McCarthy did.
So I heard my phone ringing, turned the shower off, saw it was Leader McCarthy, who I had a good relationship with. He told me he was getting really ugly over at the Capitol and said, please, anything you can do to help, I would appreciate it. I don't recall specific asks, just anything you can do. Again, I got the sense that, they were scared.
They, meaning Leader McCarthy and people on the Hill, because of the violence?
He was scared, yes.
Okay. At 2:26, Trump calls Senator Mike Lee by accident, trying to get a hold of Senator Tuberville. Mike passes the phone over to Tuberville, where him and Trump chat for a few minutes. At 2:28, Mark Meadows begins to receive text messages begging him to ask Trump to send the people home. So on this section, these are just like a collection of like texts that Mark Meadows, this is Trump's chief of staff, it like starts to get over the next like hour and a half, 2 hours, I think. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Mark, I was just told there's an active shooter on the first floor of the Capitol. Please tell the president to calm people. This isn't the way to solve anything. Laura Ingraham, host on Fox News. Hey, Mark, the president needs to tell people at the Capitol to go home. This is hurting all of us. He's destroying his legacy, playing into every stereotype. We lose all credibility against the BLM and Antifa crowd if things go south. You can tell him I said this. Mick Mulvaney texts Meadows. Mark, he needs to stop this now. Can I do anything to help? Barry Loudmilk, a representative. It's really bad up here on the Hill. They have breached the Capitol. Mark Meadows responded. The president is engaging. Loudmilk responded, thanks. This doesn't help our cause. William Timmons, the president needs to stop this ASAP. Meadows responded 3 minutes later, we're doing it. Donald Trump Jr., his son, texts Mark Meadows, he's got to condemn this shit ASAP. The Capitol Police tweet is not enough. Meadows responded, I am pushing it hard, I agree. Later, Trump continued, this is one you go to the mattress on. They will try to fuck his entire legacy on this if it gets worse. This is a unnamed person. Are you at the POTUS right now? Hearing he's in the dining room watching this on TV. Is he going to say anything to de-escalate apart from that tweet? Former White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, tell them to go home. Another unnamed person. POTUS should go on air and diffuse this. Extremely important. Former White House Strategic Comms Director Alyssa Farah. POTUS has to come on firmly and tell protesters to dissipate. Someone is going to get killed. Representative Chip Roy, fix this now. Sean Hannity, can he make a statement? I saw the tweet. Ask people to peacefully leave the Capitol. Meadows responded on it. Another unknown, please have POTUS call this off at the Capitol. Urge rioters to disperse. I pray to you. Fox News host Brian Kilmeade, please get him on TV. He's destroying everything you guys have accomplished. Trump Jr., again, we need an Oval Address. He has to lead now. It's gone too far and gotten out of hand. Those are just like some of the tweets that Mark Meadows would get over the next couple hours. At 2:38 p.m., Donald Trump tweets, quote, please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful, end quote. This tweet was 1.5 hours after the initial breach of the Capitol grounds and about 25 minutes after the breach of the Capitol building itself. This tweet wasn't even written by Trump, but it was written and posted by Scavino, which is his aide. They had been begging him to make tweets. He wouldn't do it. Finally, somebody authored one and he agreed. He was like, fine, fuck it, send it out. And Scavino was the guy that ended up posting this tweet. At 2:40 p.m., stack one of the Oath Keepers, Kelly Meggs, Kenneth Harrelson, Jessica Watkins, Joseph Hackett, and David Marshall enter the breached rotunda doors on the east side of the Capitol. At 2:42, Pelosi, in a secure area, ponders how to maintain some sense of security and confidence in the American presidential vote after the rioters have managed to delay the certification of the election. If you want, we can click on Pelosi's video, 2:42. I think we can watch like a minute of this. Set it to like 1.5 times. Let me know when you got it open.
What? Just the 00 timestamp?
Yeah. Pelosi in a secure area, yeah.
We're starting to get surrounded. They're taking the north front scaffolding. Unless we get more munitions, we're not going to be able to hold. The door has been breached, and people are gaining access into the Capitol.
We have got to finish the proceedings, or else it will not become restricted.
Senator Schumer is at a secure location, and they're locked down in the Senate.
There has to be some way we can maintain the sense that people have that there's some security or some confidence that the government can function and that we can elect the President of the United States. Did we go back into session?
We did go back into session, but now apparently everybody on the floor is putting on tear gas masks to prepare for a breach. Well, I'm trying to get more information.
They're putting on their
tear gas masks.
Okay, we can exit there. After Pelosi makes this statement, around 2:42, I think she says this, 2:44, Ashley Babbitt is shot by Capitol Police after attempting to force her way into a broken door window into the Speaker's lobby. I think this is important to click and watch because a lot of people will say that she got shot randomly, that she wasn't trying to get through, that nobody was being threatened or whatever. I think it's an important video just to have in the back of your head for that. You can put it on 1.5. Let me know when you got it at 50. Let me know when you're ready. Yeah. So if you want at some point later, you can go back, but you can see that she was like jumping up. She was like, or not jumping, but she was like stepping up and trying to climb through that window, and then she gets shot by I think it's Capitol Police on the other side. That's at 2:44 p.m. At 3:13 p.m., Donald Trump tweets, quote, "I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you," end quote. This tweet was sent out 2 hours and 20 minutes after the restricted grounds were breached by the Proud Boys, 1 hour after the Capitol building was broken into, and 30 minutes after Ashley Babbitt had been shot in the Capitol. At 3:14 p.m., Stack 2 of the Oath Keepers, including Joshua James, Robert Menuda, and Brian Ulrich, entered through the same rotunda doors and violently pushed past officers. At 4:17 p.m., Donald Trump finally tweets out a video, and then this is the one of like, "I know your pain, I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it all away from us, from me, from you, from our country. This is a fraudulent election. We can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. We've seen what happens. You see the way others are treated that are so bad and so evil. I know how you feel, but go home and go home in peace." He won't even condemn them even here. Yep. 3 takes were done for this.
He's like, "I love you. You're special." That's crazy.
And this was done 3 hours after the initial break-in. At 4:32 p.m., after hours of requests from multiple parties, Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller finally authorized the National Guard to deploy. At 5:07 p.m., after 12 attempts over the hour to get through, Giuliani finally reaches Trump by phone. After a 12-minute phone call with Donald Trump, Giuliani, over the next 3 hours, calls Senators Marsha Blackburn, Mike Lee, Bill Hagerty, Lindsey Graham, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, and Dan Sullivan, as well as Representative Jim Jordan, in an effort to get them to delay the certification of the election. At 6 p.m., the United States Capitol Police declares the Capitol building clear of protesters, and a curfew in D.C. comes into effect. At 6:01 p.m., Trump tweets, "These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots who have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and in peace. Remember this day forever." 7:02 p.m., Giuliani tries calling numerous members of Congress in the hour before the joint session resumed. He left a voicemail for Senator Tuberville. You can click this if you want to get an idea of like what he was probably calling people for. Set it to 1.5. It's 1 minute and 50 seconds. Let me know when you're ready.
Ready.
3. Ready. Yeah. 3, 2, 1, go.
Senator Tuberville, or I should say Coach Tuberville, this is Rudy Giuliani, President's lawyer. I'm calling you because I want to discuss with you how they're trying to rush this hearing and how we need you, our Republican friends, to try to just slow it down so we can get these legislatures to get more information to you.
Pause for a second. So remember, Giuliani is making this phone call and leaving this after people have gotten back into the Capitol, after the riots, after the police have cleared things out, after Ashley Babbitt has been shot, after everything's happened. These are the phone calls that Giuliani is now making to people that are coming back into session to resume certifying the vote. Sorry, okay.
So they're still trying to extend it.
Yes. So, okay. So we're going to play again. 3, 2, 1, go.
And I know they're reconvening at 8 tonight. But the only strategy we can follow is to object to numerous states and raise issues so that we get ourselves into tomorrow, ideally until the end of tomorrow. I know McConnell is doing everything he can to rush it, which is kind of a kick in the head, because it's one thing to oppose us. It's another thing not to give us a fair opportunity to contest it. He wants to try to get it down to only 3 states that we contest. There are 10 states that we contest, not 3. So if you could object to every state, and along with the congressman get a hearing for every state, I know we would delay you a lot, but it would give us the opportunity to get the legislators who are very, very close to pulling their votes, particularly after what McConnell did today. It angered them because they have written letters asking that you guys adjourn and send them back the questionable ones, and they'll fix them up. So this phone number, I'm available on all night, and it would be an honor to talk to you. Thank you.
Wow.
So they were like, there were different lawmakers that Giuliani called. I believe Trump made phone calls as well, but because of Trump executive privilege, you can't touch those phone calls. So the J6 committee wasn't allowed to investigate those, but he was supposed to making calls.
To be clear, Giuliani is not a member of government, right?
Giuliani is only operating as Trump's personal assistant here. Correct. He has no official member in the United States government whatsoever.
He's
Correct.
just his lawyer.
Correct. Well, criminal partner, really, but yes. At 8:05 p.m., Pence enters the Senate chambers to resume the count. At 9 p.m., Nancy Pelosi reopens the House. And then going into the next morning at 3:32 a.m., Congress completes the counting of the electoral votes with Vice President Pence affirming the results of the election. At 7:10 p.m. the next night on January 7th, Donald Trump tweets out a video. If you want, you can click this. We don't have to watch this. But basically, he says that, like, oh, well, I tried to call the National Guard immediately. I wanted to stop things immediately, but they wouldn't let me. Something even more interesting, though, is the second link I have in here where they're doing outtakes. They're doing outtakes for this video.
I'll do this. I'm going to do it.
With this video that ends up getting tweeted out. Click the outtake. It says refuses to acknowledge. Let me know once you've clicked that, and just leave it on normal playback speed. I think we don't have to watch like 20 seconds.
I missed that.
What?
So it's not the Twitter link we're looking at?
So you see Trump tweets, it's the next link right after that. Refuses to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me just, I'm like retarded right now.
We know.
Is this 601?
It's 7:10
right now.
Okay, I got it. Ha ha ha.
Yeah. Wait, do you have the link, Warren?
Ready.
Sorry, is it 702 you said?
710.
601. 710.
Yeah, 7:10. It's the refuses to acknowledge that underlined text.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Insurrection.
And then this is where he's like, for that Trump tweets, the video that he just did, these are the outtakes for that video, okay? So, all right. 3, 2, 1, go.
I'll do this. I'm going to do this. Let's go. But this election is now over. Congress has certified the results. I don't want to say the election's over. I just want to say Congress has certified the results without saying the election's over, okay?
But Congress is certified. Now Congress is
Yeah, right.
Now Congress
I didn't say over, so let me see. Go to the paragraph before.
Yeah. Okay. That's my timeline list if you want. I'm going to throw another link in chat. This was under the Proud Boys thing above. We're going to 1.5 this, but this gives you kind of like an overview of the day as like for basically what the Proud Boys were involved in, and it walks through kind of how they were like leading the charge and everything. Here's this. Let me know when you got this open, and then 1.5. And I don't think we'll watch the whole thing. I'll stop it at some point, but...
Ready.
Okay. The guy on screen right now is Joe Biggs, who I destroyed in a debate in 2016. So fuck this guy. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Humble.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Joe Biggs, and guess what?
You're seeing a Proud Boys leader announcing plans for January 6th.
Except this time, and you know who it is when I say we, but this time we're not going to be wearing the colors that you're used to seeing us in. Nope. This time, myself and other leadership have decided we're going to go incognito. We're going to be blending in, weaving in and out like a motherfucking old lady with some goddamn pins in her hand, making a goddamn sweater. You ain't going to know who the fuck it is standing beside you. It could be Antifa. It could be me.
Joe Biggs is one of 5 Proud Boys now charged with sedition for their roles on January 6th.
I guess they found out who he was.
The group was among hundreds of rioters who stormed the Capitol that day. But you wouldn't really know it from the footage. Because, just as Biggs outlined, they deliberately tried to blend in with the crowd. But building on the work of online researchers, the New York Times spent months finding Proud Boys in videos of January 6th. Our analysis shows, for the first time, how central they were to the Capitol attack. We'll reveal how again and again they instigated critical breakthroughs around the Capitol by repeating the same tactics. Target an access point, rile up the crowd, join the violence, and reassess if police resist them. We combed through dozens of court records that included thousands of their text messages that show how Proud Boy leaders crafted a chain of command specifically for January 6th. Our investigation traces how an organized and violent group with a history of supporting Donald Trump came to his aid as he desperately tried to cling to power.
This is exactly what was said.
And were catalysts in a vicious attack on American democracy.
Repeat after me. I am a Western chauvinist.
This is Enrique Tarrio, leader of the Proud Boys.
I refuse to apologize for creating the modern world. Create modern world!
The group is notorious for street brawling and facing off against far-left activists known as Antifa.
Wait, fuck. We don't have to watch all this bullshit. Fuck. They run through some of the similar things they do for the response on Parler and stuff. I think the only interesting moments we're seeing on video them, like the initial break-ins. Here, hold on. I should timestamp this better. I'm going to give you a different timestamp right here. Let me know once you've clicked this.
Got it.
And Samsel talk.
Got it. Okay, let me know when you're ready. 3, 2, 1, go.
To Joe Biggs and immediately confronts the police. Biggs and other leaders look on. Samsel later told the FBI that Biggs encouraged him to confront the police, something Biggs denies. As the crowd pushes forward, many of the Proud Boys join in. They start removing barricades.
This is the very first initial break-in, like through the restricted grounds.
A chain reaction has been set off. The attack on the Capitol has begun.
We're going in.
And Proud Boys lead the charge, removing more barricades at the next police line. They scuffle with officers and break through the line again. The crowd sweeps the West Plaza. For the next hour or so, police will try to hold off these rioters, including Proud Boys, from storming the building. Proud Boys make up a significant portion of the front line here. The Times spent months analyzing the scene to locate them, and there are likely more than we found. Many worked as teams, like this group in tactical gear, and these marked with orange. But to blend in, most Proud Boys are deliberately dressed in plain clothes instead of their signature black and yellow.
And then there's another part in here that shows like when they finally break through the window. We don't have to watch this, I guess. We don't need like every fucking part in here. Oh, here, just this other part. Then you can see them coming in too. So you see that they're involved in the initial breach on the outside, and I think they're involved in the initial breach. Not I think they are. They're involved in the initial breach in the Capitol as well. At 113. Let me know you got this open. You click, and I think you can see them break into the window here. Let me know when you're ready.
Got it.
Ready.
Yep. 3, 2, 1, go.
This is exactly what was feared.
Proud Boy Dominic Pizzola is one of the first rioters to breach the building. And just as he does throughout the day, Biggs follows just a minute behind. At this point, the Proud Boys have been critical players in 5 major advances.
Okay, so stop here. Just as a heads up, okay, so this, if you learn any fucking thing from today, this is the very first time anybody gets into the building. There were no magnetic doors unlocked. There were nowhere cops letting anybody in. None of that other bullshit. None of that is true. This is the very first time that people get into the Capitol building, okay? This is the first time is when they break the window and then they come through the door in the window here. Okay. That's just that video just showing they're rolling this. There's like minor information. Ashley Babbitt was the lady that got shot. She was the only person fatally wounded on January 6th. She was an avid believer in a multitude of conservative conspiracies, including QAnon and other conspiracies relating to Epstein and Satan worshiping, posting videos on her Facebook account, angrily ranting into the camera. Her Twitter feed was full of conspiratorial theories, retweets, from well-known faces in the MAGA community in the days leading up to her death after attempting to climb through a broken window during the insurrection. I feel like if you go through her Twitter feed, I think it's pretty sad. She's like retweeting and like basically every single fucking thing that is like a crazy conspiracy theory. You can see her retweeting and going through all of this, leading up to her going to the fucking January 6th event.
I think,
yeah, go ahead.
when you present this, you should leave Epstein out of it, I think, because I think the problem with that is like when you hear the name Epstein, you say it's a conspiracy theory. Like obviously there are like, invalid conspiracies behind it, but regardless of that, like, the fact is, like, Epstein did fuck kids on an island, and like some politicians had been there. And even if, okay, let's say hypothetically that's not true, in some world, okay, let's say alternate theory, that's not true. I think when people see Jeffrey Epstein, they read that as like a conspiracy that's like invalid, just because of how widespread that is, and like it's much bigger than January 6th stuff. I think people are gonna automatically be turned off and be like, you are retarded. Like,
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, okay, maybe
it's not even worth getting into Epstein stuff. Like, you could just literally take out that like one name, and I think it would help this.
Sure, possibly. Okay, yeah, I'll put that note in there. There's another guy called Ray Epps. I didn't want to dive into this. People say that he's a guy that like instigated everything because there's a video of this guy the day before, like outside, be like, we need to go inside the Capitol. But it's so ridiculous. Like I've done debates with a guy that wrote the article on this. I think it's ridiculous. I don't have this here. Other people claim there's like embedded intelligence, but it's hard to even debunk this because again, there's like no good evidence like offered up here that intelligence caused like it was a Fed surrection or the Feds caused any of this. There's this talking point of like the police let them in. The first insurrectionists are the Proud Boys, and they are on video breaking into the building. There's plenty of video footage of police fighting with protesters to debunk this baseless conspiracy. We don't have to watch all these videos. There's tons of videos of like officers, an officer guy getting almost crushed when they're trying to break in. You've got officers getting grabbed and thrown out of lines, who gets tased. You've got footage of officers just fighting with rioters. There's a guy who like gets his eyes gouged out by some dude that they're trying to sentence like 17 years in prison. Like not gouged out, I'm sorry, his eyes gouged. I don't think he lost his eye, but yeah.
Ray Epps, I feel like it might be worth going a little more in depth on him because, like obviously, you're saying like there's a singular video, there's no evidence, many assert conspiracy theories. Like I think it's worth at least like picking the video out, going through it.
I do feel like you're opening up
so much.
You're opening up getting caught in the mud here with like this part of this conversation. I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd include it. I have these as notes here, but like some people want to make these really big deals. So I don't know if I would include anything about it or not. I just have like little things here about it. I don't know if I would actually bring them up at all. I'm not sure.
I think if you're gonna include it, you gotta like go into like how the conspiracy is retarded if it is, you know.
Yeah, maybe.
It's
Yeah,
gonna
the only
bring
problem.
you off topic a lot.
Yeah, the only issue is that like if I don't mention anything, people are gonna say like, oh, there's a reason why he didn't mention Ray Epps because it sinks this entire story because there's a video of a man outside shouting, "Go into the Capitol." But maybe it's worth including. Maybe that'd be like for the 5-hour video. Who knows?
If you're gonna, I just think if you're gonna include him at all, you have to like actively debunk it rather than say like, "There's a video, everything's retarded," right?
But now
If
you're
you're willing
no
to
longer-
debunk everything else, you got to go on that.
Sure.
But the only thing is you're no longer talking about Trump then or like this whole thing. You're now going into debunking the January 6th conspiracy stuff, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, some of it's worth talking about. Maybe the Ray Epps guy is a guy that gets brought up a ton, but yeah. For motivations of the rioters, there are a plethora of media reports, social media posts, and court documents that show that many of the rioters there on January 6th claim to have been directly inspired by Trump to be there. There's a Citizens for Ethics reports that there's like a ton of different statements made by rioters. Like you can click that if you want. Like a lot of these people are saying like, I went there because I thought that Trump called all patriots. He wanted us to go. Like I thought that Trump, wanted us to be there. Of course I went there. There's a video compilation of rioters that talk about like why they felt like they needed to be there. In the Dominion lawsuit versus Fox News, I peel out a quote here from Rupert Murdoch, who's the huge, Jew owner guy. I think he's Jewish. He's probably Jewish, of like Fox News that everybody talks about. In one of his emails, he says, wait, hold on. I think this is all his email. Not surprisingly, given these trends, the head of the Fox News decision desk correctly predicted that on election night, we may be looking at at states where it seems that President Trump is in the lead, but there's still 20 or 30% of the vote outstanding. So we're not going to be able to make the call in those states. He correctly recognized, and Fox widely and repeatedly reported before the election that this would occur because President Trump had criticized mail-in voting and encouraged Republicans to vote in person, whereas Democrats had encouraged their supporters to vote by mail. No, wait. This isn't a good one. Oh, no, I understand why I have this in here. Sorry. In fact, Maria Bartiromo, I suck at pronouncing it, discussed this very phenomenon with President Trump in an October 11th, 2020 interview, with President Trump lamenting that mail-in votes would likely be counted 2 weeks after the vote comes in and stating that the Republicans are going out to vote. They don't want to do the mail-in ballot thing. They don't trust it. Republicans are going out to vote. Never mind. I don't know why I have this quote here. This is not the one I'm supposed to have here. Don't worry about that. Forgot I said that. And then the final part is just outcome. It's just like deaths. I've got a section on people that try to rewrite it. There's a lot of people who tweet that like, this was just a protest, like nothing bad happened. It wasn't even that big of a deal. But then when you look at like their coverage on like the day of, it's some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. There's I guess we can just watch like part of one video. I'm sure you guys are probably all familiar with like people saying that it was just like a protest and it wasn't a big deal, I imagine, right?
Yeah. We have produced a limited edition card that is a piece
if you
of
want, here,
with
click this link.
Small piece of 24 karat
This will be the last thing that we watch any part of.
Highly collectible and very, very popular as a memento that you have funded.
They're going
to be a whole section on this, but like the way that people cover this event, in my opinion, when they thought they were going to win is wildly different than how they recounted afterwards. But okay, we're at 56:03. We're going to start in 3. Oh, you get it set to 1.5. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
They want to bring America down, but we're not going to let them do it. This new system is a military high-tech attack, and we need to understand we're under attack. We need to understand this is 21st century warfare and get on a war footing and not just take this country back, but take the whole world back from the communist Chinese. USA! 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 USA!
I love this guy.
And so today we march to the Capitol because on this historic January 6, 2021, we have to let our congressmen and women know, and we have to let Mike Pence know they stole our election. We know they stole it. We're not going to accept it. Do the right thing because there's a million of us here in D.C. telling you to, and you have a constitutional and legal. You have to do it. It's your duty. It's your duty to save this election from being stolen. So hey, let's do it.
President's going to finish. President's going to finish in 10 minutes, and he just told the crowd, let's walk down Pennsylvania. Is this Pennsylvania? This is a live feed from Washington, D.C. Right now, Alex Jones and Owen Schroyer speaking to a large crowd. At the same time, in the Capitol building, the word is Mike Pence has rejected Trump's call. He has failed to show the courage that Donald Trump was attempting to imbue in him and has begun the counting of the electoral votes. At the same time, there's word that thousands of patriots have broken through the barriers around the Capitol and are now moving towards it to occupy. That's the word from Elijah Schaefer, who's on the ground. And Alex Jones continues to speak to this crowd. Let's go back to Alex Jones.
And the Great Awakening. The Great Reset is triggering the Great Awakening. And the Great Awakening will trigger the Great Rebellion and the destruction of the New World Order. We all
And then if you want, we can pause this because I watched this entire thing. This video is wild. It just what they say when they think they're going to win is just crazy. These are just like quotes that I peeled out, and I've timestamped it all if you ever want to go there on your own and look at it. But like 6140, it looks like patriots are threatening to overwhelm the security of the Capitol and break in. 6948, and here you see them pulling the barriers and police struggling to pull it back. This is not Black Lives Matter, folks. This is not Antifa. These are patriots, and perhaps they finally boiled over. 70 minutes, you see the air filled with the mist of mace, the stinging gas that the police will be implementing, and that is also being implemented against the police as patriots. Wow, receiving blows to the head from billy clubs. We expect the situation to become ever more dire. At an hour, 120 minutes, I think this would be 2 hours, 38 seconds, the revolution will be televised. Elijah Schaffer tweeting, breaking, I am inside Nancy Pelosi's office with the thousands of revolutionaries who have stormed the building. To put it in perspective how quickly staff evacuated, emails are still on the screen alongside a federal alert warning members of the current revolution, right? Note the words. He says this a lot. They're patriots. They're revolutionaries. It's 1776. It's right. We've tried to work within the system, but now the revolution upon which our country was founded is not dead yet.
Yeah, is he actually in the building? I didn't even know that.
Elijah Schaffer? I think, I guess if he's tweeting that, he must have been.
I know Baked Alaska was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a picture of Baked on Nancy's phone, but
yeah,
well,
goddamn. Good. That's gonna make a good ending.
Damn it.
Yeah, there's just like the video of like people covering this was just wild. Even the meme of that the lady who got maced. There's like meme videos made of her, but she's literally saying like, "We're storming the Capitol. It's a revolution." If you scroll down, there are people outside wearing like literally Civil War shirts. You can click on protesters outside wearing Civil War shirts. You've got a guy walking through the building with a Confederate flag. You've got people like Michael Malice is tweeting out, every politician should be huddled in their home in fear, just like they wanted the rest of the country to be for months. This is at 3:23 p.m., right? This is right in the middle of things.
Just like COVID.
Yeah. You've got Ali Alexander, the Stop the Steal movement leader guy, tweeting out, this is the first official day of the rebellion. Ben Shapiro did a video on this the day after, saying that, like, this is unacceptable, guys. This is an insurrection. This is unbelievable. Like, this is technically an insurrection. I can't believe you guys do this, right?
What we saw yesterday is inexcusable, unjustifiable, awful on every level, disgusting on every level. Just terrible, terrible. When you have rioters taking over the U.S. Capitol building, the seat of American democracy, and when you have those rioters saying that they are doing so in the name of the President of the United States, and when you have them doing that to the legislative branch of the government, and when you have those people, they are rioters, they are not protesters, okay? As soon as you commit an act of vandalism or violence, you are no longer in the category of protester, you are now a rioter. And unlike some folks who have justified riots based on the perspective of the rioters, if you're a criminal, you're a criminal, and you should go to jail. You should go to jail. And this was an attempted act of insurrection. I mean, technically speaking, that's what it was, considering that the reason that this happened is because Congress was simply there doing their constitutional duty and tabulating the state-certified electoral count. Okay, that's all they were doing. They do not have the power. Congress does not have the power, as I have been saying all week long. Congress does not, and never did, have the power to simply overturn state electoral college certified results. That is not a legal thing for them to do. Vice President Pence did not have that power. Congress did not have that power. It was not going to happen anyway, even if you thought they had that power, because Democrats control the House of Representatives. So all of that was tomfoolery. It was nonsense. And folks who believed that it wasn't nonsense and decided that they were going to commit an evil act. It is an evil act to invade the seat of government and do violence to people. It turns out we now have over a dozen police officers who are injured. There are 4 people who are dead. 1 person was shot. 3 people died in medical emergencies yesterday. That's as bad an event as I've ever seen in American public life. Frankly, I think that in many ways, it's the worst thing to happen to the United States of America since 9/11. It's.
I feel like these 4 tweets are the perfect encapsulation of how people treated this afterwards. You can click this guy and just click like Kevin Sorbo, and the way that he explains this. His first tweet is, "It's happening." The next tweet is, "History is being made." The next tweet is, "To those storming the Capitol building, please be careful. Do not act like Antifa. Respect the police and know they are mostly on our side. They are simply trying to do their job." That's at 3:16 p.m. And then at 4 p.m., Antifa led the charge into the Capitol building dressed as Trump supporters.
No.
Yeah. As soon as they realize that they
crazy.
aren't winning,
That's
the
so funny.
tone changes on everything. There's like a million of these types of tweets I could do, but okay, yeah.
I think picking out, I would say like, because I've never even heard of who this guy is. Picking
Kevin
out, like,
Sorbo?
Popular, Yeah, I never heard of this guy.
He plays Hercules. He used to be more famous, but like he's just a crazy dude. His wife is crazy. But yeah, go ahead.
Disappointed!
I feel like picking out like popular conservative commentators who have done similar things, like Ben Shapiro, for example. I think that would be good. Like,
Sure. That guy's
during
just an
versus
actor. He's
after.
not a.
He's just an actor, but he started to become more politically active. Or he's like a weird, like he was like a weird mini Republican celebrity for a little bit, I think. Kind of like the
There's
My
like
Pillow
a
guy.
genre, yeah, there's a genre of like celebrity type people who like eventually just become like Twitter people.
Yeah,
Sure. It's just I don't know how seriously I take it if he's not like trying to be a political voice. You know.
Sure, it's not necessarily even like I think some political voices are good, but I also think it's important to show like because again, there's this claim that's always made that like, well, the people there had no idea, they didn't know what was going on. The people there, they literally just wanted to, they just thought it was like an ordinary protest, like nobody had any idea, what was happening or what was going to happen. But I think the people there had a pretty good understanding of what they were there to do, of like what the goal was. Like
I think like
if you want, like, just as a real quick meme, like you're just loading up this like this stupid video, you can click play and go through the ad real quick. What were you gonna say, Tommy?
I was gonna say getting comments of people who were like in the building, also rather than like once again that actor guy would be good because this guy like I mean he is wrong, but he's like some retard on Twitter. Like,
Sure.
getting people who are like there,
Sure.
Seeing like their stuff, which must be no indictments.
Sure. Let me know when you're done with the ad.
Ready.
Okay, I'm not. It's a long ad. I got a 30-second ad. Thank you. Okay.
Get ad block. Jesus Christ, you're like 50 years
Shut
old.
the f up. Okay, let me know when you're ready. Okay. So starting at the beginning, you don't have to speed it up. It's a short one. 3, 2, 1, go.
Ma'am, what happened to you?
I got maced.
You got maced.
By the police.
And what happened? You were trying to go inside the
Yeah,
Capitol?
I made it like a foot inside and they pushed me out and they maced me.
What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Elizabeth. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee.
And why did you want to go in?
We're storming the Capitol.
She got
It's a
arrested, right?
revolution.
Like,
I don't remember, but
Is she even like names where she's from?
hi, I'm Ashley. My social security number is this. I was
This is
trying to
where I
commit a
live.
federal crime.
Oh.
Please do not arrest me. Yeah.
Well, that's because she's a Fed, as we all know. She was personally.
That was
hired
one of
by
the
FBI.
Antifa members they deployed in there. Yeah.
Yes. No Trump supporter would look like that.
True. That's a
Let's be real.
Okay. Of all the bullshit that we went through today, okay, this is a long time. Also, thank you for staying to the end. I appreciate all of you. You're very wonderful people, okay?
So true.
From top to bottom, Nick, what was the most surprising thing of all the shit today? We went over that you were like, wow, I didn't know that. That was pretty crazy.
So the one thing I didn't think that you were going to be able to, I guess, showcase is Trump basically having the intent associated with the actions that I left the first 20 minutes realizing I was very wrong about that. And then it was driven through my skull for the next 4 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, I come away from this conversation thinking that he knew exactly what he was doing the entire time he was doing it.
Okay. Tommy, what about you?
Yeah, definitely the intent of Trump because I mean I knew like even from your previous coverage and from seeing other stuff like I knew like peripheral events around it. I knew like the loose string of like how it went, but especially like I think the most powerful parts of it were hearing like first of all the comparison between like what his advisors were telling him versus what he's saying in speeches. That was really good. Hearing about what happened with the who's the Jeffrey Clark guy. Hearing about that was really important. And definitely like Nick said, I really think the timeline of like what happened on January 6th from like what he was saying versus what was happening at the Capitol, his like testimony from aides, like refusal to condemn the violence, and then like afterwards saying that, because I think a lot of the stuff I've heard from like older Trump voters, like in my family and stuff like that, is like, oh well, you know what happened was really bad, but like Trump, you know, he didn't encourage it. He said it was he condemned the violence. You know, he never wanted to get like that. And like, you know, based on everything we've seen, like he 1000% wanted it to get like that, knew it would get like that, and was like, you know, fine with it. And even after the fact, like he's not even pissed off about it. He's like, whatever, you know, and ultimately his actions resulted in someone dying, you know, at least one.
Sure. Warren.
I forget what you call it, the Electoral College representatives, when they bringing in that lawyer, what do you call that again? The
electorate slates?
Yeah, slates.
Mhm.
That I'd heard you speak about that, but that's going to be probably the most challenging portion as well because it's so detailed and a bit more complicated.
Mhm.
It revolves around the electoral college and everything, but it seems to be the most crucial component. Like that's where the story really starts to shift, because up until that point, I'm like, okay, I see how he genuinely believes this. I can hear it in his voice. It's just ignorance, but that's when the strategizing starts to turn. The question I still kind of have, but is the way it was written out in that one paragraph where he brings in the lawyer and the lawyer sees a strategy where if we implement the strategy, it was the wording that was a bit confusing, about where it could allow Trump a path if the court rules in his favor between this period and this period. And I read that paragraph a few times. I think you explained it better. I was just trying to, because it was so complicated, I kept reading that paragraph on my own. So, but that
the
whole area,
ultra charitable beyond good faith construction is that they were sending in an alternate slate of electors in case they won a court battle, which would allow them to pick the other slates of electors just in case, so that they wouldn't have to like certify votes or whatever, or have electoral votes counted that the state legislature would change their mind on. The big example that conservatives will bring up when they want to argue this point is, I think in 1984, I think Hawaii did something similar where they sent in 2 slates of electors. Greenwald tried this on me in a debate. And they bring up that Hawaii sent in 2 slates of electors. The reason why Hawaii did that was because the count was, I think it was like 130 vote difference in the state. So what the state legislature did was, it's close enough to trigger a recount. So what we're going to do is we're just going to send in both slates of electors just in case. And then when January 6th rolls around for the certification, you guys can pick the one that we basically ascertain is the correct one. The only difference between Hawaii I would say the key crucial difference is that one was done on the up and up. Everybody knew what was going on. The state legislatures were involved. They certified. The governor gave the ascertainment to both sets of electorate slates. None of this was done like behind the scenes or in any kind of like weird spooky way. I feel like for the Trump stuff, that if they wanted to say that like, hey, okay, like maybe we do in a court case, if you feel that strongly about it, go to the legislatures and say, hey, can we like do 2 sets of electorate slates just in case, rather than kind of like all the shady shit they did. I feel like that shows worse intent. It's my feel on it, but Willie Mac, what do you got?
I agree with Warren. I think the most damning part is the electoral scheme. I think that's like the biggest like thing that most people don't know about. But since I knew about that, I would say the next big thing, and all of us got interested at this point, I think if you even go back and you watch the stream, is Rosen said to Trump that he needed to understand that the DOJ can't and won't snap his fingers to change the outcome of the election. It doesn't work that way. And then Trump responded saying, I don't expect you to do that. Just say that the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me.
Sure.
I mean, I feel like that's like a huge thing. Like I had no clue about. And then of course the January 3rd Oval Office meeting with Jeffrey, whatever his fucking name is.
Yeah, Jeff Carter.
Every single one of us has said.
Yeah, it's crazy that a lot happened in a short period of time.
Yeah,
it's
one of the frustrating things I
think
for me in going through this is that for some of these things you have to know like a lot of structural government stuff. Otherwise, it like doesn't seem like that big of a deal, or it's hard. And there's like a lot of boring groundwork to kind of cover, like. Why is it even a bad thing if Donald Trump talks to a guy in the Department of Justice? Like, that's his department. Does it matter? Or like, why would it matter if somebody's asking to send a letter out? Or like, he's even at, like, there's like a lot of groundwork to cover to even begin to lay out a lot of the stuff, which is kind of annoying.
Even beyond that, I would guess the average person doesn't really know. Like, I mean, they know the Electoral College exists, and they'll say they know like how it works. I don't think they really have an in-depth understanding of what that means.
I didn't until about like a year and a half ago. Yeah, I didn't even understand it at all. Yeah.
I don't know how much it's important for them to like fully understand it to a degree. You know, you just got to understand like there's electors and then they're sending a false slate that is nothing. That's not supposed to be there at all, and they know.
I mean, the explanation helped me, but I don't know.
Okay.
Is there a particular thing you learned that changed your perspective on a thing? Nick, I guess you can use their prior answer too if you feel like. I'm just curious if there's like a particular thing where like, I thought this, like a big perception, like I thought this happened, but I didn't know that this is actually a thing, even if it wasn't like the most surprising thing you learned, but like a thing that changed your perspective on something. Yeah.
Can you come back to me on this?
Go for it. Turkey.
I guess the biggest thing for me is that I was under the impression, this is kind of related to my first, well, it's kind of a repeat, but I was under the impression that Trump had never wanted or supported the violence. Like, I knew the false electors thing and all of that about, the election stuff, but I was under the impression basically that he thought the election was fake. He wanted a protest, but he didn't necessarily want a violent one. Like, he wasn't supportive of that. He wasn't cool with that. And let's say the timeline you built here definitely changed that.
Gotcha.
I got it.
Okay.
Half the shit you listed as conspiracies was shit that I unironically thought was actually the case.
What do you mean?
Like the example, they just let them walk right in.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
That was a good point. Yeah, I didn't know that was the first point of entry.
Actually, I thought the first point of entry was the cops opening the doors. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure. Okay. Warren, what would be your thing, or was that it, or?
No, I mean, yeah, what I was saying before, but I can add on to that. Another powerful moment was hearing, like, Don Jr., his comments, like, when Trump was waiting to come out and tell them to simmer down, tell them to go home. Hearing, like, not just Don Jr., but hearing the lines, the quotes from multiple people, and also Pence, the whole Pence thing. I didn't know that he kind of refused to leave. That was a powerful moment.
Gotcha. Willie.
Yeah, definitely respect for Pence went the up.
Sure.
Yeah, so I came into it thinking like the Jan 6 stuff in terms of the riot was really unimportant. In terms of like the grand scheme of the whole thing. And my opinion's changed because I really think the timeline where it goes from Pence to McCarthy begging him, like you got Don Jr. begging him, and then it turns into like even after the riots like cleared out, you got Giuliani's voicemail saying object to every state, give us time to get the legislators to pull their votes. I think that puts into context like how deliberate it was in a lot of ways from or malicious Don was being on that day specifically by weaponizing the whole January 6 riots.
Okay. Okay, and then going through, what's like a thing where you just didn't give a fuck? Like this whole part, like if you were to tighten this up, like I just don't want to hear anything about this, or I thought it was boring or stupid or irrelevant to making any big case. Nick.
If anything, it was the section. I think we went a bit too deep into the Proud Boys, and then the what was it called? The Lamp. I forgot the other group.
The Oath Keepers.
Oath Keepers. Yeah, okay. I feel a little too much there. And honestly, I think some of the conspiratorial shit is valuable. I just don't know how valuable. Like the Mike Epps stuff. That's his name, right?
The Ray Epps. Yeah,
I think it's valuable. The Ray Epps. Yeah, I think. I don't know. One time you told me that I should split a video and make a two-parter. I don't think that you're looking to make like a series of videos on this. But if you're making the truth about what happened on January 6th, the conspiracies of what happened on January 6th would be like a solid part
its own video. Almost.
Yeah, you could dive in and do another. That's its own document basically.
Sure. Turkey.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, as far as the Proud Boy stuff, obviously it's important, but they're a relatively small part of the entire thing just because there were so many people there. And ultimately, by the time you get to the end, they read as like a footnote of the whole thing. Obviously, like the pipe bomb stuff is super. I had no idea there were any pipe bombs planted anywhere. I didn't know that at all. And that was really surprising. But I do think that like picking on these like smaller groups, I think, not that they shouldn't be picked on, but picking on these smaller groups, I think people will read that as like you conflating everybody's activity with them, when really what you should be showing, I think, is like everybody involved was fucked.
Sure. Okay. Warren.
The lawsuit between Fox News and the voting machine company.
Yeah.
Because when I was listening to that part, in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking, okay, but and I even asked that at one point because I was wondering that very question, like, does this have anything to do directly with Trump? I know it's kind of relevant to it, but I feel like that could be something that you could shorten.
Gotcha. Okay, and then going through, is there any particular... Wait, Willie Mac, go. Some piece you didn't give a fuck about here.
I would say the mail-in ballot part with COVID, like we could slim that down to like a couple like 30 seconds, you know.
Okay.
With the Republicans are voting less, you know, and I agree with Nick when he says the the Proud Boy leaders. I don't know how important that is.
Okay. Okay. And then final question, what is some piece of information that you wish existed or that would move you in a direction that obviously like I'm trying to move you in or whatever? What do you think is like a big key piece that would help, Nick?
What do you mean? Like if we had like an all-seeing eye, we knew everything that was happening in the situation?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I can get much more of a verbal confession than that clip of him saying, you know, I don't want to say that I concede. I don't want to say that's over or whatever. I kind of got that already. I don't know. I'm pretty convinced.
So like direct admission or quotes from people or from Trump especially would be
Yeah.
nice. Sure. Turkey.
Yeah, I'll just have to repeat Nick. Like, basically, the only thing that I would want to see is something you'll never get, which is Trump being like, it's an insurrection. I want it. I wanted it all to happen. I'm glad it happened. I would do it again, like, which you'll never get, but yeah.
Warren.
Yeah, anything that could neutralize my feelings of wondering of thinking that Trump is genuinely believes he's doing the right thing, because it's going to like, if you could neutralize like the intention of it or the motive, like if you could negate all questions around that, it would be a sealed deal.
Okay. And then Willie Mac.
Yeah, I would say like I assume this will be part of your video. I think you did a great job with a lot of this, but is the selling of the idea, if he wins again, that means like it's the end of democracy, or it could be like this really bad thing. It would be that.
I think that when this would be like a Moby Dick's book worth of like macro to convey. But I think that when I look at everything, I feel like January 6th to me was like the convergence of so many bad things happening in the overall cultural apparatus in terms of how we approach like politics and media, and then more specifically issues relating to the conservative or Republican Party, and then more specifically issues relating to Donald Trump. Like I feel like all of these huge things kind of like came together with January 6th. So for instance, things like mistrust of institutions, right? I can't trust the election system. I can't trust the judges. I can't trust Congress. I can only trust the president. Things like lying deliberately in the media, Fox News and the Dominion lawsuit and Donald Trump and Giuliani. Things like king-making or emperorship, right? I'm not criminally liable for anything. I should be able to decide if the election was right. I should be able to suspend the Constitution. I am above these laws. Like all of these types of things have like come together, and I think that it's highly problematic and we have to take a step back. It's not necessarily this idea that like, hey, if Donald Trump wins, it's going to be Hitler 2.0 or whatever, you know, maybe it will, maybe it won't. It's just more just like, holy shit. It's frustrating that at the end of this, and we've already been here for like 6 hours or 7 hours, so I'm not gonna make you watch a ton, but like when you listen to anybody talk about this today, and there's a ton more videos we could have watched of how crazy it was on the day of, but when you listen to people talk about this today, they'll say things like, wow, Tucker Carlson released a video of like the lost footage, and he's saying that like the cops just walked this guy through the building, nothing happened. Or Lauren Chen was on Jubilee saying like, oh wow, a couple old people broke some buildings, like who the cares? But then like in the background of all of this, like the president of the United States is gaslighting half the country on the outcome of the election so that he can lead what's essentially a coup plus an insurrection to maintain power as president. That's wild.
No, it is.
Yeah. I think that's just kind of my, so yeah, that's, in terms of what my goal is, I don't know. I don't want people to know like this shit was crazy and people need to treat it as such. It was a insane event and everything leading up to it was insane, and we have to do something different. We have to depart from whatever path we're on that got us here, because holy fuck, yeah.
I agree, but your best way to prove that intent would be you have to dip into the Supreme Court doc in the electors scheme indictment against him. That's the only way you can improve. Like, he's still crazy, you know? It's not just this one crazy thing happened. It's like, this guy's still nuts.
I feel like the issue real quick on that is that like, I think that all of this works. This is the hardest thing. All of this works really well in totality, but any individual piece is like, is it like really that bad?
Yeah.
Like, let's say that they asked some people, and like these people thought they were electors and they just wanted to send some other votes. Like, hey, if they won voter fraud cases, because they had a lot of them, right? Well, maybe they could have chosen a different slate. Does it matter that much? Well, you also have to know about all the court cases, and you have to know about all the other pressure to get the state legislatures to flip their vote, like the Brad Raffensperger call, and you have to know about what they want to do with Pence. And in order to know that, you have to kind of know about the ECA and like what the vice president do. And you kind of have to like, there's just like so many parts that you have to like fit it all in. And then like once you have all of it done and you have all the context, now like everything is like, oh, like when Donald Trump calls like an investigator in Georgia to tell her that she's doing a great job to find voter fraud, now it's like, wait, this call is highly inappropriate. The president of the United States should never be calling a state investigator like this. There's absolutely no reason for Trump to ever even mention to her anything, especially because he's not even calling her as the president. He's calling her as a candidate. That's insane. And he only has his contact because people in the White House are giving it to like, but it takes so much to build up to it. That's like the really frustrating part. Sorry, go ahead. Turkey or Willie?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, obviously you know this, but there's just, like, it took you 6 hours to explain this to us, right?
Yeah. And this is also cutting out a ton of stuff, too. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think you could explain it in, like, 2, honestly. I don't think you could. Like, maybe if you really trim a lot. But then the problem is, like, okay, let's say you do somehow manage to condense it into, like, 2 hours. You publish it. It's, like, the best edited, most amazing.
This is
okay, but okay, but
in my head.
Let me just go. Let me just go. Okay. Let's say you do make the most perfect expose of Donald Trump of all time. Okay, the most amazing video ever, right? It gets 10 million views, 20 million views. Like that, I don't think any of this matters to Trump voters that much.
So this is the one thing that I disagree on, and I think I'd need like a more Republican-leaning panel, or maybe like other, like even people in Warren's position. I legitimately believe that a lot of people just don't know the extent of all of this, and partially you could say because of how like the liberal media has covered him, because so many people have said like so many crazy unhinged things about Trump. Like if I heard like Anderson Cooper or any like left-leaning like CNN person like say like, did you know that Donald Trump was going to fire his attorney general if he didn't lie for him? And that like I could understand Trump would be like, that's probably bullshit. Like I don't believe you. Like fuck you. I really don't think the information is there for a lot of people. That's my guess.
I agree. I mean, I don't know. I just don't think
you got to convert this to YouTube Shorts.
Maybe the average Trump voter, if you could somehow condense this into a missile and shoot it into their brain, and they can immediately have the information that we just had and like have the same understanding and everything, then it could work. But like once again, it's so much to communicate, and
so much of that problem, Tom, can be thrown away with tone. If you make the video like a fun thing, like here we're going into this crazy investigation of what really happened, and then you have like the music
but,
going
like,
and all this shit.
The thing is, like, even if it's a fun tone, like the actual topic of what happened is like extremely dark. You know what I mean?
No, but dude,
you gotta do like a true crime video where you got like
you're never going to convince people that are like already like super like MAGA or whatever. You can totally convince people that are just like a lot of regular Joes that just like view all this shit super casually.
Isn't it crazy? They got whole states of those swing people, you know?
But also, if you do show this to them, like I think part of what Warren said earlier was true, which is like voters are still going to see this and be like, okay, but I don't want to vote for Harris.
Dude, that's why RFK Jr. is in. I'm kidding. Never mind.
But there is that internal dialogue going on. So even if it doesn't shift their vote to Kamala, it's still a worthy endeavor to undertake.
No, I agree. Of course, it's worthy.
Your goal isn't really just to win votes for Kamala. It's more to shift like the moral landscape. It sounds like is what Destiny was describing. He's like, it's this culmination of all the like. It was this perfect storm, and the whole effort is to reveal that so it doesn't happen again. The other point would be like, I noticed that going to what other people, Trump voters or whatnot, think. When you were doing the X space right after the assassination, it seems like with Lauren Southern and people, like every single person you asked about, because yes, this is your cornerstone, and you're like you've become an expert on this topic, January 6th, and you asked them, and none of them have any of this information.
Yeah.
So I think that is a data point that indicates that people don't.
It's not only that, but also like those people, even if they did have this, they don't want to communicate that because like that poses risk to their job. Their audience doesn't want to hear this.
Yeah, sure. I'm not thinking about the content creators, just like the people. Because like I said, there's a huge problem with the content creators. That's a whole other issue that unfortunately Yeah, but that's a
I
different
think
thing.
it also helps though to like. I mean, this is like a similar thing where if you go ahead and you make the video, and then before you debate somebody, you're like, hey, watch this first before we debate. And this is a topic. This is my opinion on it. That catches people up on a lot of facts. So you don't get into these conversations where you're like, well, do you know about this? And they're like, no, I got no idea about that. Because now then you got to go through like the whole thing of explaining it.
But then like the problem with the problem with that is like none of those conservative guys want to talk to Destiny right now, or maybe
I mean,
everybody
he's talking to guys like every week though.
Sure, but the big content creators
but
won't want to anymore.
it's like Rob Noor. It's not Tim Pool, right?
Uh-huh.
Tim Pool is like he's never gonna look at this ever, and he's like huge.
I mean, yeah, I mean maybe, but I do think that shit helps. It's like I don't know, it'd be like the equivalent of like if he ever talks to Tim Pool in the future and he doesn't invite him on. I feel like it would be like it'd be like when I debated Hassan and he's like, I want to debate your video, but I've never watched your video.
Sure.
You know, I feel like
yeah,
to a
but like
degree
once
that helps.
again, like I'm not saying it's like a foregone conclusion or you shouldn't try. I'm just saying like Tim Pool, the second Destiny challenges him to a debate, he's gonna be like, "Well, you call for the president to die," and his audience is like, "True."
Willie, you can't compare this to like you and Hassan because Hassan picked you out because he thought you were like the dumbest person in the room.
I was, dude, and he still lost.
Yeah, you still lost. Exactly. He's not gonna. But like Tim Pool's not gonna pick out Destiny.
True.
I feel like what you'd have to do to like get.
After the recent comments, I don't know how many conservatives are gonna.
True.
I feel like the audience you would need this to see is like an audience that's like vaguely right-leaning, but not necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, but okay. The thing is, you say normies, but I don't think it's like easy to just like say, okay, here you go, normies. I feel like the audience you'd want is like Joe Rogan or something like that, unironically.
Yeah,
that's like a wide enough berth.
You
know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I just think it needs to go viral. I think you're getting a little too specific with it.
True.
And it just needs to be a fun video that can go viral. If you just come off as like an angry lib in this thing, you're gonna look psychotic.
Yeah.
True.
No, I agree.
You know, because the topic is really cool.
You got to get a video essay voice. Every video essay YouTuber changes their voice
Like
drastically.
Bo Blacks.
And they read this. Yeah, dude.
I was gonna
Dude,
do Bo
Josh
Blacks
Jackson's
and
like, what's what verse? Like he just gets in your ear, dude. It feels like you're getting like fucked at the beginning of the
Bo
video.
Blacks and It's a Gundam. I was gonna have them both guest star on my next. Yeah. Okay. Any final? I'm releasing you all. If you have to leave, you can leave. Any other final thoughts, questions, comments, anything?
Good job.
Yeah,
Good
it's really impressive.
I feel like I just went on an EFAP for a movie I never read. I never read. Oh fuck, I'm tired. I never watched.
Nice.
Ugh.
I know you're still wearing a hat, Nick. Are you reconsidering?
Yeah, dude. I'm voting for RFK Jr. Thank you for changing my mind.
Oh boy.
Base.
Okay. Well, I love all of you. Thanks a lot for hanging out.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It was a slugfest. So I do this every day. I know you guys don't necessarily sit and listen to boring shit like this all the time. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
It was really interesting.
Thanks
to
for
be
having
honest with you. I learned a lot, so thank you.
Cool. All right.
Peace.
Have fun.
Thank you.
See
Yeah,
guys
let me know
later.
if I can ever help with it.
Yeah, no problem.
Peace.
Bye. I feel like the Proud Boys Oathkeeper stuff is important to show a through line of like some type of like plan or activity, but it's so much more that you have to explain to like make it relevant. I feel like cutting all of that out saves so much bullshit because it's not like you have to learn so much to make you care for such like it's because they're not like the stars of the day at all, and they're not even really necessary to maintain everything else. So cutting that out would be a time saver. Yeah, there's other stuff I'll reconsider. Jesus. Are you doing another focus group with different people? I don't know. Damn, this is the long ass thing. The Hirschman Clark stuff is wacky and wild. The Elector's plot is pretty wacky and wild. A lot of people thought, oh, I am glad I had the Proud Boys stuff in there, at least for that. Although I don't technically need anything for the initial break-in, people thought that the first people that got into the Capitol were just let in by cops. I think a lot of people think that. I wasn't 100% sure on that until I went down this road. Were the first people let in by cops? I don't know. Maybe some people broke in some places, some people I had to, but no, yeah. Statements that Trump's family makes are good too. Text to Mark Meadows with everybody like begging to do something. I like that it seemed like people were getting this. I like this. This is the Trump intent thing. This is another thing that requires like an overwhelming amount of like evidence and stories, because I can understand how like a reasonable mind might think like, did Trump, like he could have thought the election was stolen. Like it's possible. And I get how he's, but like, I feel like when you hear enough, you're like, okay, Jesus fuck. Like the DOJ shit, the repeated lies, the Raffensperger call, the Giuliani admitting that he lied about the whole fucking Georgia shit. Like, I feel like seeing these and then hearing him repeat everything again on January 6th, hearing the same lies over and 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 over again. I feel like kind of hammer home like, okay, something is happening here that's probably not okay. Trump's behavior on the day of January 6th. I think the timeline part is really important. I'm glad I did the timeline thing. I feel like seeing everything laid out because it's very easy. Even when I like debate history, like people did this with like Israel Palestine. You're like, bro, like obviously the Palestinians. Obviously it happened with Arabs. Of course, Arabs were fighting against Jews. They had to fight back against the violence. And it's like in 1947 or we're talking about like the 1920s right now, the 1930s, and people will be like, oh no, I was talking about this event that happened like 10 years later. Like the timeline is really important. You're saying that motivating factors were happening for things that happened like 10 years after the fact. This doesn't make any sense. People do the same thing for timelines on J6 where people will say things like, yeah, Trump told them all to go home, and he was like, he tweeted that out like pretty shortly thereafter, didn't he? Like, didn't he make that tweet like pretty soon after the violence? Like, no, it was hours. It was hours after of people begging him to stop. Yeah. The electors plot is really hard because there's so much civics. God, there's so much civics in all of this. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot of civics just in doing the research for this. But it's a lot, and it's dry, and it's boring. Even explaining that Giuliani indictment, like, can you show me in this indictment where it says he lied? And it's like, okay, so when Giuliani says that for the purposes of this indictment and for all other things, he's not, so what he's saying, like, is even explaining like that one paragraph is like, oh, there's like so much bullshit you have to get through. Yeah. Having more video stuff. I didn't watch a lot of videos with these guys because I was already like eating into so much time, right? What was it, like 7 fucking hours of time? But like, I think having video footage is really important. Me reading this stuff, like I can see in my mind like what this looks like on video. Like there's so much stuff that I can see. Like having because having the quote of people saying, oh, Donald Trump said, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Like, if I had that and then the next 3 minutes were like all of these fucking quotes, I think that video, watching him speak, you can even do like interstitials with like Giuliani doing this like trial by combat shit. Having this on video, this can't be read. None of, I don't think a single quote can be read. None of these should be read. All of it should be presented in video format. All of it should be audio and video.